lungs, really heavy, couldn't walk. And as I'm getting better on this keto and people are seeing me and they're moving around, the first question they're like, "What are you doing?
Right.
How did you lose all that weight? I just saw what happened." So I love to hear those questions from people. I don't mind them walking up to me and saying, "Wow, how are you losing that weight?" Or "What are you doing?" Or
Mhm.
"Why you're running now?" And 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 playing. I love that question because then I get to tell them exactly what I'm doing and
Mm.
exactly where I'm getting the information. So my neighbors around have lost a significant amount of weight themselves.
Welcome to the Protecting Your Nest podcast. On this podcast, we explore a transformative story. And we do that on some of the episodes I share. We also share evidence based practices that support our journey towards metabolic health. For those who are new to my podcast, I'm Dr. Tony Hampton. I'm a physician dedicated to helping individuals reclaim their health through low carb, keto, and carnivore diets. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with a truly remarkable guest, Ajalah Efem. And Ajalah is a single mom of two living in the Bronx in New York. And her story of resilience, hope, and transformation, I think you'll love to hear. And for 3 years, she faced severe health challenges due to type 2 diabetes. Blood sugars were dangerously high. She was relying on insulin multiple times a day and managing her symptoms of a painful neuropathy and debilitating fatigue. But everything changed when she discovered the power of a ketogenic lifestyle. In only a month or so, she was able to reverse her diabetes, get off 15 meds, and I can't wait to hear that story, and take control of her health in a way she probably never imagined. She went from hopelessness to health. And I think that'll resonate with many people who are struggling to see a path forward. So let's dive into her story, a story of healing, hope, and life-changing power that comes from eating food. Who knew that food would be life's best medicine? And I want to also say that we met at the Metabolic Revolution Rally. I have my shirt on. Shout out to Jess Apple and the others who created this rally. And that's where I met her. She had a powerful speech. And for those checking us out on the podcast, we will share her speech in a separate video on YouTube. So make sure to check that out. So many people couldn't be there, but we have to hear these messages of healing. So, with that, my friend, I welcome you to the podcast. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So the first thing many people said when they met you, they said, "Look at her hair. Look at that beautiful hair." So I think I had the same reaction. So we appreciate you bringing a different look to the conference and just being yourself. And I really was inspired by your speech. You were probably the only person who was a kind of testimonial from a maybe a non-expert, non-doctor, non-scientist, but it was really probably one of the most inspiring speeches. So I really appreciate you coming up there. Dr. Glant, love her. And I appreciate her. She's doing great work as an endocrinologist, previous guest on the podcast, and somebody everybody should know as well. So let's talk a little bit about your personal journey and transformation. So do me a favor, share your health journey with our listeners. What were the major turning points that led to you changing your lifestyle?
Well, for me, it probably was longer than 3 years, but I'm going to start at 3 years ago when they told me that maybe I was pre diabetic. And so I decided to go on a health kick and just cleanse everything and start anew. And so I went on this journey. I downloaded the information that I got online. I followed what the doctor said I needed to follow as far as um, what I should be eating. And, I replaced my soda with juice and water. And, I did it all. Like, I tried every health kick, that they suggested, and really just following those guidelines and what doctors told me. And it seemed like the more I did that, the sicker I got. So I went from being pre-diabetic to type 2 diabetic when I was trying to to go the opposite direction. So so that's where my journey started. And I mean, it was an awful experience because it was demoralizing in a way, like, wow, I can't get this right and I'm doing everything they said. And I took it serious. I took it serious. Like, the worst thing you don't want to have is diabetes or type 2 diabetes. So that's where my journey started. And there were some challenges in that, as far as getting the right information from doctors, working
Mhm.
with the doctors. So it's been a long journey.
Yeah. It's funny because you said, and Nina Teicholz, who also participated in the Metabolic Revolution Rally, and she was our keynote, you know, not keynote speaker. She was more of an MC. And, um, and she's been fighting the dietary guidelines for a long time. And, uh, and it's funny because if you think about the Nutrition Network, they have stated clearly, and that's the organization she founded, that the dietary guidelines do not serve us. Um, Unfortunately, the dietary guidelines are being expected to be shared by clinicians like myself, doctors like myself, the military, the public schools, any governmental anything, or anybody that receives funding from the government are expected to follow the guidelines that you have suggested actually made your diabetes worse. So it's you're pre-diabetic, and they actually pushed you towards full-blown diabetes. Shame on us. Now, for those who were not sure, here's at least one reason why we need a metabolic revolution. And that's why we have and please, guys, check out metabolicrevolution.org. We also have, under the leadership of Dr. Kim Berry, the American Diabetes Society, which is shouting out from the rooftops, let food be medicine. It's not going to be sponsored by industry, many of which are creating products that will worsen our diabetes, right? So we need to not be biased by inappropriate sponsorship. And if anybody sponsors the American Diabetes Society, um, it will be an organization that is not biased or creating products or goods and services that don't serve us. So I'm really happy that you were able to kind of at least know something's wrong. Real quick, Ajalah Efem, your name is unique. Your hair is unique.
Thank you.
Anything about your background I need to know? Where are you originally? Are you originally from America, or any roots elsewhere?
Yes, I'm from New York, born and
Yes.
raised. I was born in Staten Island, so
Yeah, so you're not, I'm thinking you're gonna give me an island or something. So all of this is New
yeah,
York. Shout out to New York.
yes.
I remember when I went to New York the first time, and I think I played the song that Jay-Z and what's her name, the other young lady, have a song, New York song,
Alicia Keys, New
Alicia
York.
Keys with her beautiful self. I played that song so much that my wife thought I was crazy. I got to New York and it was like I thought Chicago was this big metropolis, but not compared to New York. I'm like, do you have grass anywhere?
No,
No.
no.
I felt like I had gone somewhere. We went to a couple of Broadway plays and really had a great experience. I gotta get back there, but,
Yes,
really appreciate your
Broadway's my
city.
favorite in New York. You can't top
Amen.
that.
Can't top it, no doubt. So, now let's go a little bit into, your struggles. When you are given a diagnosis like that, you have some, low points, and when you had a low point, when your blood sugars were out of control, what were some of your biggest fears and concerns during that time?
I could honestly say that at that time, I feared for my life.
Mm,
My biggest fears were leaving this world and leaving 2 children with special needs who are dependent on me.
mm,
So it was really, really hard. I'm sorry, I'm emotional about that a lot
that's okay.
because I thought that I wasn't going to make it. I mean, I started making final plans,
Mm,
and asking friends to take care of my children. So
wow.
it
That
was it was difficult.
At your beautiful young age, the fact that you even had to ponder such a thing. Shout out to your children. Are you comfortable saying their names?
Sure, I have Devonshea, who goes by Corin Efem,
Yes.
and Raju Efem.
Man, these names, you killing me today. Y'all take time to make these names special. I can tell you that. Beautiful names, beautiful children, and we want to do a shout out to them for being your inspiration. We're
Yes,
able to
they
hear your
are.
voice because you're like, I gotta be here for them, and that's why this message of hope is so important. So that's a fear that makes a lot of sense. I think once we have babies, um, it changes us, and I really appreciate that I'm a changed man. And my kids are older. They're 25 and 27, but even at those ages, they change you. This is something that's really interesting. My youngest son, Justin Hampton, who is working with Northwestern Mutual, taught me, and I didn't know this, that a Roth IRA is available to high income earners. I thought it wasn't for doctors. He was like, Dad, you can do a Roth. So I'm actually working with my son. And I have so many opinions about insurance industry. But my son was like, no, Dad, I can help you. I'm like, what? This baby that I held in my hands is going to help me. And I listen to investment stuff all the time, my child. So they're going to bless you beyond anything you could imagine because you got their back, but they also got your back. And I'll be honest, I'm a guy. Ain't nobody loving anybody more than they love their mama. Let's keep it real.
That's
And I'm
true.
and I'm okay with that. Ain't nothing like mama, so they got your back. So I'm glad that you're gonna be here for them for
Yeah,
many years to come. I'm excited about that. Now,
yeah.
when you
My kids, they're not young, mind you. They're not young
yeah.
either,
Oh,
but
what's their ages now?
26 and just
Girl,
turned 21.
you look
Yep.
like you're 26. What? Oh
My kids
Lord.
are they're older, but they
What?
they need their mom. Like I need to
Girl,
be here.
you better stop playing with me. Hey guys.
And
Uh
I'm glad you said
wow.
that about the Roth IRA and everything else like that,
Seriously.
because part of my journey when you are transforming your life, and we'll probably get into that
Yeah.
later. Part of that is transforming not just a little microcosm that's causing a problem, but charging, changing everything. So when we talk about affording lifestyle and everything else like
That's
that,
right.
that was part of my transformation to get financially
Mm,
educated
yes.
to go along with the new lifestyle. So,
Yes.
yes.
And the legacy. You
Yes.
think about those
So,
babies. Whew, what legacy are
yes,
we gonna
yes.
leave? So they'll be okay, and then the next generation will be okay. And it starts now. Once we get the opportunity, the privilege to know some things, then we
Right.
can teach our babies, and then our babies can here's a little extra sum you didn't know you were gonna be getting. Take that with you. I'm gonna lay down and go to the next universe. But let's leave that for our
Listen,
babies so we can leave a legacy. So thank you for that. I had no clue you were girl. I'm done with that. Let me move on. I can't even think anymore because I just assumed you were so much younger. I'm telling you, I think these dietary patterns really age us in reverse, and I really appreciate that. So let me ask you
If
this.
you met me before, you would have thought I was about
Well,
80. The way I
right,
was moving
right,
and walking,
right.
like, I felt like I was 80, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, my
Yes.
own mom was helping me run around, and she's in her late 70s, and she had
Wow.
to come and help me walk down the street and walk like,
I had no clue. I
yeah.
love this. Yeah, you're killing me. Yeah, I just when I met you, I just assumed I was older than you, and I didn't know we were. Man, I'm done. Let me go. Let me move on. So another thing that is scary about diabetes are symptoms, and talk a little bit about the types of symptoms you were having before you went in a low carb direction, and how did it affect your life?
Um, Symptoms were hard because, I started waking up every day really sick. With the fluctuation of the high sugars to the low sugars, it was
Mhm.
a constant vomiting, constant upset stomach. Um, I couldn't walk because my legs were so much pain. They
Mm,
were swollen. Um, I couldn't sleep because of the nerve pain. It was
mm,
like I would go 4 or 5 days without sleeping because of it. Um, what got me was the frequent urination, which literally made me a prisoner in my own home because I couldn't leave. I couldn't be away from the bathroom for 5 minutes. I couldn't go outside. Well, if you ever been to New York, you know, there's no place to go, you know?
mhm,
So I couldn't go outside anymore. I couldn't leave. I couldn't. But I would honestly say the worst part of that was the forgetfulness, the mind, the clarity of mind. You know, I was always a plus student, or it came to a surprise that I was having a hard time doing the simplest of things, simplest until it got to the point where I'd walk up and down my hallways when I can for about 15, 20 minutes because I couldn't remember what I was doing or what I was supposed to be doing. That's how bad it affects you.
wow. Yeah, and
So,
that's an example of when you say when we celebrate how youthful you look now and how back then you didn't look youthful, it's not just appearance, it's like how you move around, how you're able to interact. That'll make you look old. What
right,
I mean I
right.
mean, that's crazy, and Imma tell you something. Everything you just mentioned makes sense, so for those who are checking this out, one of the best ways to know you have diabetes is increased urination because your body, particularly for type 2, you're insulin resistant. You're not using the insulin very well. So the glucose floats around. You only have a tablespoon of glucose in your blood at a time. So if you got extra, so you eat a sweet potato pie or you eat pasta. Pasta has 40 carbs divided by 4, estimates 10 teaspoons of sugar. So if you only have 1 teaspoon, you add 10, then your body's like, what am I going to do with all this extra glucose? I'm going to pee it out. That's one of the things you're gonna store some as glycogen, some as fat, but you're also gonna have to pee it out. So now you're urinating like crazy. Why would someone have stomach issues? Well, one of the things we think about over time is something called diabetic gastroparesis, where you start to have issues with your stomach. It's not the motility goes down; it's just not functioning properly, and you're vomiting. It's a horrible. It's one of the most horrible side effects of diabetes. Of course, similarly, you can get neuropathy. And if you're in pain from neuropathy, where the nerves are irritated from that glycation, the glucose sticking to the nerves, now you're having pain in your feet. So you're walking with difficulty. You can't sleep because the nerve pain won't let you sleep. And then when it comes to the brain, being forgetful, it makes sense because there's a blood brain barrier that will shut down. See, the brain is smarter than the rest of the body. Brain's like, I can't deal with all this sugar. So it won't let the sugar, the glucose into the brain. And until you give it an alternative fuel source like ketones, which is why the keto diet is so powerful, your brain will literally not get energy. So, of course, you're going to have forgetfulness and mental fog. But when you have the blessing of keto, you have an alternative fuel source, which will make the brain wake up and be happy. So I'm really excited about all of that. But what was the tipping point? What made you decide to take action, to do something different? What struck you that made that happen?
I actually got gifted. I went with my sisters, so I got
Mhm.
gifted a trip to Europe with them.
Mm,
And it should have been a great time of my life. It should have
mhm,
been something amazing, something to see. And I realized then that I could not do it. I could not walk. I could not, the party that I went to were 5 blocks ahead of me.
mhm,
And I'm behind, most of them are walking and riding bikes and 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 in that moment when I went there, I looked around, I saw a whole bunch of healthy people
mm,
and they were having a good time and living their lives, and my friends and family are over there just enjoying themselves, and I was so miserable and so lonely at that point.
mm,
And there I was inspired to seek something better, seek a better lifestyle. I wanted to live the way that I saw everybody else living. And from where I am in the Bronx, most of the people look and are like me. It's we're overweight, we're walking sluggishly, we're downtrodden. And I didn't see that there. I
mm,
saw a whole nother life and I wanted to be part of that. So I came back and I told my doctors, look, I would like to see a specialist. I'd like to see somebody to help me
mm.
get to where I want to be.
Right.
So
And
so
speaking
it
of
was
that, you met Dr. Glant, Mariana Glant. So let me just pause for a moment. This Harvard, Columbia trained endocrinologist, most endocrinologists are not even aware of what we're talking about. They're very medicine centric. So that's like winning the lottery to find a metabolically trained doctor known in the world for this. How did you land that? I mean, my oldest son, Marcus, for the Illinois lottery, he would probably be curious how you pulled this out. So how did that happen?
you know what it was is I told you I was having a lot of issues. Blood sugar was 800, then the next minute 30, and my doctor was at his wit's end. So he
Mm,
called other doctors, and then next thing you know, I had like 5 doctors on the phone trying to tell me what to do, trying to, and they suggested at this point that, we think you're going to have to be checked into a hospital for I don't know how long, for indefinitely,
mm,
maybe, or, like they couldn't figure out how none of the insulin was working. And,
right.
it was to the point where I was passing out and not functioning at all. So I was like, honestly, that's not the way I want me thinking that I was dying. I was like, that's not the way I want to go. I want to try something different. I know there's 5 of you, but is there somebody else who can help?
Mm,
And through that, through that interaction and stuff like that, they contacted Dr. Glant and I was on her roster. But it took 8 months to see her. 8 months of pain, 8 months of, and at that time I was on insulin about 5 times a day, just trying to get everything right. Like, I don't know how it became so bad so quickly, but at that moment, so I literally hobbled into her office on a cane. And by that time, I had given up and I was like, I don't even care anymore. I'm just
wow.
making final, you know, re- I'm making final plans for myself. And she's like, no, you're not going to do that. That's not what we're doing.
That's not your destiny.
That is
I'm
not
s
it. And
I'm
she
still
listened to
shocked.
me.
I'm shocked though that you found her. I'm shocked that they knew that she existed because most conventional doctors wouldn't even know she existed.
it took about 5 doctors to I don't know how
Yeah,
they did it or what they did, but I was so pleased to walk into her office and she listened
yeah,
right away and said,
that's right.
"It's not your fault." And I
Man,
hadn't heard
magic.
that from anybody before, so I knew she was different, but you
That's
just
right.
informed me something else. I did not know of her credentials. I didn't know I didn't know she was Harvard and
Yeah,
I had no clue. So,
yeah,
I'm just finding that out today.
that's right, that's right. Well, it's a
Wow.
community. It's yeah, she's smart but you would know she doesn't come across as highfalutin, you know what I mean?
No.
She seems very grounded, down to earth, so we'll make sure we share this episode with her as a way to thank her, for her, service,
Yeah,
and
she has been amazing.
she's amazing. She's even working on sharing a resource, an app to help people be coached and all that good stuff, and I think I can't wait till that gets more exposure as well. And
Right.
I
And
wanna say well, go ahead.
I was gonna say I am on that app
Yes.
and the one-on-one care and the coaching, that was pivotal for helping me get to where I
Yes.
am today.
Yes.
Like, I want the world to have what she is given. Like, I'm going to keep talking about it and
That's right.
telling everybody because
That's
if I'd
right.
known this before,
That's right.
if
That's
I
right.
had known, I mean, I wouldn't have had to suffer like that.
That's
And
right.
it breaks my heart to realize that. It was just that simple.
I know, and it's like and it breaks your heart also to know that other people who don't hear this episode, other people who never learn about low carb, keto, carnivore will never heal, and they will
Right.
leave their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 babies when they didn't have to leave them, and
Right.
I'm not surprised though that you struggled initially and your doctors were confused. And I'm going to tell you why I think they were confused about why you're not responding because they are focused on the wrong thing. You're insulin resistant already. So we're going to give you more insulin. So if I have an alcoholic who's alcohol tolerant or resistant, I'm just give them more alcohol. It doesn't make sense. How about we get rid of the alcohol? And then we will become more sensitive to alcohol because you're not. So that's the problem with this whole paradigm is that we are treating a medical condition where the root cause is because you're eating excessive carbs that turn into glucose and your body can't tolerate it, which then will make your body make more insulin. And then we're going to give you medicine, more insulin, when you're not getting to the root cause of the problem. And that's why they were perplexed. And so to train our doctors in the future, we have to teach them what's the root cause of the problem and solve that.
And I know my doctors originally, the ones that were they were doing the best that they
Of
could.
course,
They
based
were
on what they know.
attentive, they used the best knowledge, and I'm always
That's right.
grateful for them and thankful. This is not to, like, put them
Dim-
down in any
No,
way,
not at
like, I
all.
love
Not at all.
them, and I know they were trying their best, and I appreciate them for trying their best and still having the capacity to say, "Let me bring you to somebody else," you
That's
know?
right.
It wasn't an ego trip, it wasn't just
Yeah.
that they did that. I
Yeah.
so appreciate that from them, and I tell them that as well.
That's the tone of this podcast. And although I can lose my mind sometimes and get frustrated sometimes, you have reminded me of the tone of this podcast. We are here to give information, recognize that our current health system, particularly for our nutrition professionals, requires that they follow dietary guidelines. So they have no room to think outside the box. Because if they think outside the box, like Michelle Hearn, who's a nutrition professional, who's part of the American Diabetes Society and wrote a great book for our babies about a fox becoming metabolically healthy. If you haven't heard of that book, it's an amazing book for our babies, teaching babies about being metabolically healthy. because they're not trained like Michelle Hearn, they simply don't know. But what I love about them is that they're humble enough to say, I want to help you and I don't know, so let me find somebody who's had some success. So the tone for anybody checking us out is not to demonize your doctor, but to say to them, would you walk with me? Here's some resources that you may have not heard of. It could be something as simple as the guidelines for therapeutic carb restriction, which you can find on Low Carb USA and the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, which walks doctors through that process of reducing carbs and how to do it safely. Or the Nutrition Network, not the Nutrition Coalition, that's Nina Teicholz's, which is more, let's teach you about the guidelines, but the Nutrition Network teaches clinicians and lay people how to do low carb safely. But they don't know. So the diet doctor has a free CME. If you just type free CME diet doctor, you can get a free course on low carb and get CME credit. But people don't know. So anyway, I just want to applaud your doctors for doing what they did, which is they exposed you to someone that could help you. Any fears about that? When you have this great doctor in front of you, who you're like, oh, finally. Did you have any fears about keto or low carb before you got started?
I really was taken aback by what she had suggested, Dr. Marietta Glant,
Yeah.
about getting off the insulin. I
It was
really
like,
thought that was the
whoa.
only thing keeping me alive.
Right.
So she's like, when you walk out of this office today, no more.
That's
And I was like,
crazy.
she did it that day. And I was like, oh my gosh. But she was so confident in it that I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
I
crazy.
tried everything else. Why not? So it was a lot of fear because when those doctors that I talked about heard what I was doing,
Wow.
um, they had some reservations and, it was like, let me call, do you
Yeah.
understand what you're doing? Let me make sure. Like, they were really adamant about, like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't
Right.
think you should do that. And this is from the doctors. And at that moment, I became very fearful. And
Yeah.
then my family members, which I found out, I did not know, all my family members, older aunts, uncles, dad, they all have diabetes as well.
Mm.
They never said anything, but
Mhm.
they told me that. And they called their doctors and told them what I was going to do. And their doctors were like, no, I warned her against that. No. So I had a lot of feedback from friends and families and doctors that this is just not what you're going to do.
That's right. That's right.
So I was very scared and frightful, and it was a rough start for me with that fear in mind.
That's
But
right.
again, I had tried everything else. So what's one more thing? I had
That's
already
right.
given up. So
That's right. Wow.
yeah, so it was a lot. And then I had reservations about keto diet type
Mhm.
thing, which is um before this I wasn't very much a meat eater,
Mhm. Right.
you know. I like fruits and vegetables, but just the thought of just sitting there eating a lot of meat was not good for me.
Cool.
So it's the one thing I hated to do. And she goes, no, this is where you have to go.
That's
So
right.
I followed that and I'm glad I did because it worked out on my benefit. But there was a lot to it. And then there is the fear of the cost. Can I afford this?
Sure.
I'm a single mom in the Bronx on a fixed
That's
income.
right.
Like,
Right. I
who
know.
does that? But then I had to say to myself, can you not afford this? you know,
Right.
I cannot afford not to.
Amen.
you
Now
know?
that's great. That's great.
So that's where that transformation come when she introduced this diet to me. I had to transform all aspects of my life. And that's when I went into finance, I started to learn about finance. I started
Mhm.
to apply to finance. I learned that I had to cut off a lot of things,
That's
do it
right.
like just to be able to afford this new
That's right.
lifestyle.
That's
And it
right.
worked out for me the better because I wound up becoming a licensed New York fiduciary through this whole process.
That's insane.
Because me telling people that they just have to eat and follow directions. Well, now when people come and tell me and talk to me about what I'm doing in the keto diet and whatever, I'm able to help structure their budget so that they can start
Yes.
too, you know?
That's right. I love that. When
Yeah,
I started doing research for the title of this podcast, Protecting Your Nest, it was always financial stuff that would pop up because it was a financial nest. Who knew that
yes,
the journey you're taking with low carb and keto would benefit you? And your life is so much better when you have a sense of your future. You know, you can kind of see, you can calculate what your future is going to look like. It's a
right.
numbers game, right? So knowing that my future looks good, I'm able to. I have a budget, a written budget. Dave Ramsey talks about that a lot on in Nashville with his program. You have to be. Everybody should be on a budget. What's going in, what's going out, no matter what research source you use. But what I love about your message today is that, in spite of my family history, diabetes is not my destiny. In
Right.
spite of my family history, being on insulin is not my destiny. Now, let me say this with clarity for those who are checking us out who are not going to refill their insulin. Let's be clear. If you are working with a metabolically trained doctor, you can get off of insulin very quickly, safely. If you're not, you're going to have problems. So search Diet Doctor, uh, their search engine for clinicians in your area. Search Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners. Search Low Carb USA. They'll give you, if you can't find one, print the guidelines for therapeutic carb restriction, which will talk them through how to do it. And they may not suggest stopping as suddenly as an expert as Dr. Glant because she's got this. Even Dr. Jason Fong, who does a lot of fasting, he gets people off insulin like that. Fasting's even faster than what we're talking about with keto. But you have to work with somebody who understands. And I would even argue when you look at the guidelines, they'll say cut it in half. At the end of the day, she looked at your situation and felt that was the best move. So work with an expert. Do not stop your insulin without working with an expert who understands it. And that way you'll keep it safe. So
Yeah,
when it
I couldn't
comes
have
to
done
that,
it without the doctor's guidance. As I said,
yes,
not only
yes,
did she guide me, but she had an app where she was in
yes,
constant contact with
the
me
app. That's right.
24/7. So
That's right.
it
That's
wasn't
right.
that easy, but
Right, right, right. It's a yeah, we wanna and I just wanna put that out there because it's a
thank you for
miracle to hear this. But, I think now you switched and, okay, you see things, benefits, anything that comes to mind in terms of, okay, making this I don't have that first of all, the first benefit, probably because you had to stick yourself with insulin, but what were some of the benefits? That would be number 1 for me. I can't stand pain.
You know what? That is definitely one for me too. That I did not like it, and I was doing it for years, and I still feel it on my fingers and my arms. That's
Right.
awful. So I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm not doing that anymore.
That's right, that's right, that's what I'm talking about.
But the benefits are, um, the energy I got
Mm,
immediately
mhm,
from just changing and making these lifestyle changes, you
mm,
know? As I
yeah,
said, I was able to get up, get out of bed, you know, move around.
mhm,
Like, I wasn't tired anymore. At first, I was beating myself up for being lazy or for being I did not realize that me constantly needing to sleep or being tired was part of the diabetes, you know?
right, right, right.
Um, being able to think again. A
Right,
big one. That was
yeah, that
a big stretch where I can do it. I can take classes. I can follow a simple
Right.
conversation when before I'd have to ask somebody 3 or 4 times, "What did you just say? What? I
Right,
don't
right.
understand," you know?
Right, 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 right.
Like, being able to follow a conversation. Another benefit was, we didn't talk on that, eyesight, through
Mm,
this whole thing, I had was losing my eyesight. You know, I couldn't see, I couldn't read, I couldn't, watch TV. There there was nothing there. It was just all a big blur. And now I have that ability again. I could read a book. I could write. I could, walk down the street without assistance. Um, what else? Not having a cane. Not
right.
having to cobble down the streets. That's important to me because I live in New York and you gotta go up the
Yeah,
stairs and
and
down
you
the
gotta be
stairs, and
fast, you gotta be fast,
you
people
can't.
moving,
Yeah, you
they
gotta
don't
move
have time.
fast.
That's right.
And then there was the benefit of not just not having pain, but
Mhm.
sleeping, being
Yeah,
able to
right.
really sleep and not the false tired sleep. And, there's so many benefits from it. I
That's
could go on,
insane.
like, I like feeling healthier. I like feeling like my stomach is not sick with the food I'm eating. I like being able to, not having to go to the bathroom every 10 seconds,
I
Like,
love it.
there is so much benefit that I got from just making this lifestyle change,
That's right. A long list, um, and people may say, "Well, why is her vision on the list?" And you have damage to your blood vessels that occur with diabetes. The glycation, I mentioned glycation previously, but when you have the glue of glucose sticking to your arteries and your nerves, it damages them. And the nerve you have nerves that affect your eyes and how it functions. You have blood vessels, and the only place I can look directly at a blood vessel in its raw form is in your eyes. That's why the eye doctor and the role they play is so important. And we have medical conditions in our chart. And for me, I use Epic as the platform for our notes. And there's a diabetic retinopathy diagnosis where the retinal arteries, the blood vessels in the back of your eye, are being looked at by the eye doctor, and you can see if they're being damaged. But diabetes, uncontrolled diabetes, high insulin levels will cause those blood vessels to constrict and become inflamed. And you can get retinopathy, which is going to then increase your risk for a retinal detachment, the wall in the back of your eye, which is like it's like drywall. It has blood vessels on it, and if the two dry walls, if you start to bleed between them, they detach and now you're blind. So that's why diabetes is one of the leading causes of blindness. There's something called macular edema. They have a diagnosis in the computer that says diabetic macular edema. It's crazy. So all of the things that you were starting to experience were pushing you towards the path of eye problems that would have been more serious. But thankfully, you removed the poison and that glycation and inflammation that occurs. So, and I want this gift to be given to everybody. You're in the Bronx.
Mhm.
Sounds like there's some economic challenges that may come from being in the Bronx. Amen. Hallelujah. Shout out.
Absolutely.
So,
New
talk a
York
little.
is a tough city.
It's a tough city. It's not for punks. So, when you think about access to food, we have a food pharmacy. I've been privileged within Advocate Health in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, to help lead as a physician leader the food pharmacy. So every 2 weeks we give out food because we realize there's some access to food issues. We have food deserts, and I'm hoping to expand that even more. So for you, what's your thoughts on sticking with a low carb diet when you don't even have? I know you did the financial stuff. You said
Mhm.
let me remove some of the burdens. You're doing a budget. Anything else you would like to say about having access to healthy foods in an area where access to healthy foods is not common?
Yes. That is one of the biggest challenges even like even after making the changes that I'm struggling with, because I live in an area of the Bronx where the only places if I go outside to eat are Popeyes, McDonald's, like we do not there's no place that you can actually get food. Now I have about 30 of those on a like literally 10 steps away from me. I
Mm,
have a whole strip of every single fast food place you want to eat, but
mm.
I cannot get a salad,
Right.
And
Crazy.
that's difficult because like I just not just for me, but the other people, as I said before, I walk around, I see they look like me. You know, they're in there eating and stuff like me and having access to that fruits and vegetables. In the
Right.
Bronx, it's the only place you could go where you're gonna pay, literally $5 for a green pepper, but you could get a whole bag of rice for 2 or 3, you
Wow.
know?
That's
And, like, the healthy stuff is really priced out of your range,
Mhm.
when it comes to long term, and that was my thinking before, that
Wow.
I can't eat healthy, I have to be able to sustain, a
That's right.
family and
That's
everything
right.
else, so it is still one of the biggest obstacles. It's
Mhm.
still there. All I can tell people is that, like, there are local farmers markets. There are
Yeah. Right,
local,
right, right.
you know, for me, where I am in the Bronx, there are local stands where you can go and get discounted fruits and vegetables.
Nice.
Um, Meats, you have to kind of just buy in bulk. Like, I
Right.
live in a small New York City apartment, but I had to go and get another refrigerator inside of my
Mm.
apartment to be able to bulk up on the stuff because it's more economical than
Yes.
just trying to pay for everything like little bit piece. You wind
That's
up
right,
spending
that's
a lot
right,
of money.
that's right.
And then my suggestion and what I learned to do now is
Yeah.
I walk around with my food in my pocket,
Yes,
I have
yes.
pocket lunch. I have pocket, like even if it's chicken in a baggie that I roll
That's
up
right.
and put in my pocket. And
Nice.
I am lucky because I have coaches to help me through that, to help
Mhm,
me navigate that through the program
mhm.
I'm with Dr. Glenn. But for the average person, yeah, it would be kind of difficult to do it, but it's not impossible. It's
No, it's
not,
not. Yeah.
And people are looking through my journey and looking what I'm doing, and they're doing the exact same thing as I'm doing, without
Right.
the coach. So it's it's important. I mean, things I can't change what goes on in the Bronx. I can't,
Mhm.
well, actually I can, but I'm working on
Right, right, right.
that.
It's a
I'm working on
process.
that,
It's a
just
process.
getting the message out. That's it.
Just getting it out.
That's the
There's hope,
progress.
and that's it. We're making progress. A little quick question about your family. Any pushback? Any? I know you had some concerns from the doctors, but did your family give you any pushback about this whole low carb keto lifestyle?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I like.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
took him a minute to get on board with it, and especially since we're used to eating like really heavy, rich food. They're like, girl, stop playing. Eat that food or eat that mac and cheese or eat that. And it took a minute for them, like, once they realized that I was serious and I wasn't budgeting, then the people who gave me the most resistance became my
Mhm.
strongest allies.
Nice.
So now when I go to events and my family member, I bring my food, but now all my family members, I'll walk out there with like 20 dishes because they're like, "Oh, I brought you your food," or they'll cook and
Right.
bring me a dish too, just to make sure that I have the right thing to eat.
Woo.
And then
That
like
that's
it's amazing how that transformation when you see people doing right and healthy
that's right.
and they start to bring now they're bringing their own as well, you know?
Right. That's
So they
right.
bring one for me and they'll bring one for themselves to like, "Oh, we're gonna eat this," you know?
That's
"We're gonna
nice.
go to this event, we're gonna go to this party, but we brought our own." And
Nice.
I am so thankful for that because now I have a community that is really pulling together to make sure
That's
that
right.
I reach my goals and I stay on that goals and I in turn am able to help them. So my family was difficult at first,
That's right.
but
That's right.
yeah, they're my
But you're
strongest
good.
allies now.
I think that your family, and I think all families, they still they loved us when they were difficult, and they love us as they've made these changes. They just didn't know. They didn't have the knowledge. And when you don't have the knowledge, you're concerned when you hear things that is not aligned with what you've been taught. And what we've been taught is to eat in a way that doesn't serve us. So I'm just happy that once they, just like the doctors are open to hearing a different perspective. And when you're open, you can then grow and love your family well. It's okay to love your family, but you don't want to harm them. And so I think with them getting that knowledge, that is, it's an amazing thing to see. And then I know that as a mom, you had to take care of your baby. So they, I'm sure, have experienced this dietary pattern because you're making sure they're fed. So anything that happened to your babies that old adults, they're not at home. Are they still at home?
Yes, they're still at home.
Okay. Yeah,
They're
mine
still
too.
home. They are
Amen.
both
Amen.
special needs,
Right.
so
Oh, okay. Right. You did mention that.
right.
So what happened with them? Anything that got better for them by doing this?
Absolutely. Um, my children started to have the same ailments as I am. They both
Hmm.
were diagnosed with pre-diabetes, not too long after I started to get healthy.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Then they got diagnosed with pre-diabetes themselves, and it's been a journey. They took on a lot of the ailments that I took
Hmm.
on, and
Okay.
I felt worse than that because here I am supposed to be leading them, and they took on a lot of it. Now, as I said, my kids are have a little different situation. One is on the spectrum of autism, and
Mhm.
well, both of them are, and the other one suffers from mental health issues,
Right.
you
Yep.
know, which is
Okay.
really difficult for the family.
Oh.
So,
Mm.
and then you add on to that the diabetes and the sugar and all the heart problems and high blood pressures and everything that goes along it. So I wind up being in the house with two sick children
Right.
with special needs, and it
Mm.
became even more difficult for me. But I
Mm.
am
Mm.
happy to
Mm.
say that what I'm doing with my life, I'm bringing to them and it's changing theirs as
Mm.
well. You know,
Mm.
my son, he's no longer pre-diabetic because he also made the change with me.
Mm.
And my daughter, um, who was a lot more resistant, decided to make certain changes, slight changes. And it's improved, but now she'll be working with my doctors as well to make the steps she needs to fully recover and because working with a keto diet also helps mental health. It also helps
Mm.
signs the symptoms of autism, you know, and I did not realize that. And my family is thriving now when we were doing so poor because of it.
Mhm.
So I'm
Wow.
happy about that.
Yeah. I do wanna pause for a moment and suggest something. While you were talking, I went to there's 2, search engines that are really helpful. One can be found by simply typing in metabolic multiplier Zotero, Zotero, Metabolic Multiplier, led by Cecil. Um, she is an amazing lady that's into metabolic health, but them in partnership with Nutrition Network have a search engine. So if you search Metabolic Multiplier Zotero, and I did it just now, and I put in there autism, and when I put that in there, there's a list of studies that show that the keto diet benefits autism, like a whole page of studies. You click on the study, and that way you can say, oh, this sounds like a good idea for my baby who's an adult now. But you also have the nutrition, I mentioned Nutrition Network. They also have search engines, they have research. And if you search Nutrition Network and you type in research, there's a link. I'm looking at it right now where you can click on the blog and research. You click research, and they also have all the studies, because when we're talking to clinicians and doctors, they need to see evidence-based research. So this is not just us anecdotally saying, oh, she just got lucky with her babies and they got better. No, this is science, because I didn't go to school all of these years, get my MD, I got an MBA because I like the business stuff, a master's in nutrition, so I can just be a quack on YouTube and on a podcast. I want people to understand that at the minimum, respect the research. Even if you are plant-based and you don't believe in this, at least honor the research that we have on this side of the fence, and I'll honor the research you have on your side of the fence. But it is an option. So I just want people to know that if you have a diagnosis and you're not sure if keto will benefit that diagnosis, now you have two resources to help you search that to see if there's any research out there that'll support it. So I really am so excited for your babies. Any Are there others in the community that have kind of followed your lead and started moving towards this dietary pattern?
Absolutely.
That's your answer for everything. I'm happy to hear that. Go ahead.
Okay. Now remember I said that I mean, I got a journey to go still to lose what I need to lose. But I was like 296 pounds, really heavy, couldn't walk, you know. And as I'm getting better on this keto and people are seeing me and they're moving around, the first question they're like, "What are you doing?
Right.
Well, how did you lose all that weight? I just saw you. What happened?" You know? So I love to hear those questions from people. I don't mind them walking up to me and saying, "Wow, how are you losing that weight?" Or "What are you doing?" Or
Mhm.
"Why you're running now?" And 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 playing. And I'm I love that question because then I get to tell them exactly what I'm doing and
Mm.
exactly where I'm getting the information. And so my neighbors around me have lost a significant amount of weight themselves, you know?
Wow.
Like it's infectious. It's like this thing that just travels through. And I have people calling me, like friends, family, friends of family, who are they're calling me and asking me what I'm doing and how they're doing, because there's so many people out there who are desperate to make that life change. They're just not sure how, you know?
Right. That's right.
So I love it. And my siblings as well are turn the change the way they've eaten, change the way they're doing it. And as I said, I'm lucky for that family support because now everybody has joined me. So I have a
That's
community
right.
of people who are doing the same thing, and we're all doing great. We're all
That's
losing weight. We're
awesome.
all feeling happy. We're all celebrating accomplishments. So it's a really beautiful thing.
It
And I
is.
know through people seeing me, my progress, that's what helps me keep going. Like just a change in people. And I don't
That's
mind
right.
taking the questions and referring them to doctors and, "Hey,
That's
go to
right.
this doctor, go to my doctor." It's been beautiful to see.
And
So,
it's that hope that we kinda started with, um, is restored. A lot of people have found hope because we've created some wonderful medicines that, seem to be miracle medicines like, Wegovy, which is the weight loss version for Ozempic, and Zepbound, weight loss version for Mounjaro. But my message to people as an obesity doctor, I absolutely have people who take medicines like that. I have people who have surgery, But if you skip over the dietary approach and you go straight to those things, you have done yourself a disservice. Not, I mean, we can talk about the risk involved, but more importantly, most people in my weight loss clinic do not take those medicines, which is crazy for an obesity doctor who doesn't prescribe a lot of GLP-1s because of their side effects. So at the minimum, and I meet people where they are. If a person comes to my clinic and they say, "Doc, I'm only coming to you for a shot," I honor that. But most people, I try to encourage them to try the miracle of keto first. And if I can get them to do that and at least make an effort with support, you got to be coached, like you said, then I think they'll find the path. Now, in terms of big picture, I know you're not a policymaker, but if you could think broader in terms of how public health would look, how things would look in a low income community like in Chicago and the Bronx, right? In minority communities, what role do you think low carb and keto could play in making those communities healthier?
I believe that it would be a game changer for the community. Like
Mhm.
having experienced it firsthand myself and understanding it, and I look around and I say, I wish these people could have it. I know it's a hard stretch because of the economic struggles and the hardships, but I often wonder too now, like if you can give a prescription for medicine such as an insulin pen that costs $1,200, why can't you give a medical prescription for food service that's
Right.
going to bring you the right food? Why can't you? And these are the things that I'm questioning and I am bringing to people's attention.
That's
Like,
right.
food is medicine, you know?
Wow.
So if you could prescribe me $1,200 with one insulin pen or $500 for an insulin pen, what would that
Mhm.
do a month for food, proper dietary for the people in the community?
That's
Why don't
right.
we have doctors prescribing food to be sent, even if they don't know how to cook, to be sent prepackaged? We have the technology. We have Fresh Direct and,
That's right.
now if we could only get a prescription for those at low income, like I think about these things like it would be amazing for the community if something like that were to happen, you know?
That's right.
And they do have food assistance like at food stamps or something like that for people, but people aren't educated in the point of how to shop. And when you're thinking
That's
of a
right.
big family, you're thinking, again, let me go buy this big thing of rice so we could eat
That's
every
right.
day
That's right.
instead of buying this pack of meat that's going to last 1 day or 2 days, you know?
Right. That's right.
So if if it was treated, if food was treated like medicine, we wouldn't have these problems. We wouldn't
Mm-mm.
have the big pharmacies. We wouldn't have all these people taking all these medications because I wasn't in there alone getting 15 medicines and picking it up
That's
every day.
right.
Like the
That's right.
place is always full. The
That's
pharmacies are
right.
always full. And I'm like,
Always.
wow, they're getting just as much as I am.
That's right.
And well, not anymore. But
Right. Things have changed.
yeah, things
$1,200.
yeah, so if that's what I would like to see in a
Yeah.
community, I would like to see that we do prescribe food as medicine, literally
Yeah.
prescribe it. If the insurance companies can pay for their medicine, they can pay for food. And
That's what I'm
and
talking
it's
about.
a lot cheaper cost, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
And
food. Yeah,
food is
absolutely.
medicine. That was what I said when I did my version of a speech at the Metabolic Revolution. It was kinda themed around,
Right.
food is medicine, and I said, "We're moving forward in a different way." And I tried to message that, um, and I just think that I'm very, hopeful about the future. And I'm curious if you could go backwards in the past 3 years or so before you, you know, found this miracle, what would you say to the version of yourself that, 3 years ago, 4 years ago version that you now what would you say to that person today?
I would say to keep going because there is hope.
Mhm.
I would say do your best to get out of the situation that you're in. I would also piggyback with Dr. Glant and say it's not your fault. You
Right.
know,
It's not your fault.
it's not your fault, but you can change. You can make a difference not only in your life, your family's life, and your community's life.
Mhm.
You can change. And
Yeah.
that's a message is to not give up. I beat myself
Mhm.
down for giving up and it's saying it doesn't matter, but it
That's
does
right.
matter. And I would say you can do it. And for today, you
That's
can
right.
do it. And that's important.
That's right.
And when you do it and you get that energy and you get your life, you could turn around and give back to the community, you know, and that's what I want.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Now you have your current version of yourself. You have, do you have any goals, any plans for the future for yourself?
Yes. Right now, as I said, I did go ahead and get my license as a licensed fiduciary for the state of New York, where
Yes.
I do financial planning for people, you know, to help. That's my way of giving back to the community, educating the community, getting their finances together. But I also am an aspiring entrepreneur.
Yes.
So, and again, with my community in mind, I've come up with a business plan and idea
Mhm.
that would benefit the community in such a way that the things that I felt like I was missing would have it. So I came up
Mhm.
with a, a, a third space that encompasses rest, relaxation, and recreation, and also a place where you can get healthy food. And I'm trying to put the metabolic health as a forefront for this business idea. I call it an oasis where
Mm.
people can come and get their mind, body, and spirit correct. So I'm hoping and praying, I'm going through the process of making this happen. So
Love it.
I went from being in bed a year ago to getting my license and becoming an entrepreneur. So I'm excited about the possibilities of what I can do and how I can help change my community, especially with the idea of having a place where you can go and get healthy food,
That's right.
in the
Yeah.
place. So that is my
I'm
goal.
I love all of that, and, I appreciate all of that. I'll wrap up with, how you hope to protect your nest, and when I came up with that acronym, it was really focused on what we talked about, primarily nutrition, but it also includes exercise. I mentioned that I just worked out with my trainer. It also includes less stress, more sleep, how we think, avoiding, recovering from trauma. And then the rope to get up to the nest focuses on healthy relationships, being an avoider of things that can harm us, like organisms and pollutants, and making sure we have life experiences that serve us and we protect our emotions. So when you think about that acronym, any particular area that will get extra attention over the next 12 months?
um I would think healthy relationships are always good, as I
Yes.
go out into the world, finding
Yes.
people who are a like mind, who are supportive, who are willing to let you be you and do the things
Yes.
without the negativity. That is a big thing. I love what you just said about protecting your nest altogether. I mean, it's such a beautiful idea. And I'll be
Yes.
honest, when I first heard it, I thought you were talking financially as well.
Right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
But now I'm glad you enlightened me to realize that it's just so much more than that, isn't it?
It is.
It is so much more than that. And yeah, so I just want to continue to find those healthy relationships because that's what fuels me. And that's what having that support around me is what's going to make my life more successful.
Man. So I did share that we're going to do a brief video sharing what you shared at the Metabolic Revolution. So make sure those who are checking us out on the podcast app go to the YouTube channel, and that should be coming out soon. But are you? I know the business is being started, but any place where people can find you? Do you have any social media stuff out there? Anything?
No, I'm not that advanced yet.
You're not there.
D- I,
Yeah.
Dr. Tony, I just told you I've been out in the world for a year.
It's all good. Well,
I'm
what I'll
working on that though. I
you're
will
working on it?
drop you some information if
Yeah. Once you
I,
drop it, we'll have you
yes,
we'll maybe do another video short to share the work you're doing. Uh,
absolutely. I would
so I'll
love
help
that.
you spread that. So don't worry, I got your back. So, but again, I got you. But for me, it's no question that this has been one of my favorite recordings. I feel what you've been through. I just feel like my audience took that journey with you, and it's just so nice to know that there's hope. When people hear 15 medicines, they don't even think that's a possibility, and it didn't take no time. So I just really appreciate that you got this message out for all the people who needed to hear it. So thank you so much, not only for being on the podcast, making the video short, and being in the world, a world where you can take care of those young adults, a world where you can inspire other people, and a world where you can live your life purpose. So thank you so much for coming to the podcast today.
Right? And I also want to extend a thank you to you because I appreciate you and the work that you're doing and even getting this message out and having this podcast. Not aware of it, just again to spread the message. So when people ask me, I'll be telling them about the
That's right.
podcast as well because this is amazing what you're doing. And I thank you for giving me this platform to share this story because it's going to take a village to change,
Mhm.
you know.
It is.
And
It
I'm
is.
so proud and glad to be a part of this village and to join you on your journey
That's
to,
right.
to informing the world.
Thank you. I do want to also mention as we wrap up on the metabolicrevolution.org website, and you click on speakers, you'll see all the speakers. But if you go to Ajalah's, her profile, there's a link to a Medscape article written by Nina Teichels. And there's others in it, but that article would be helpful for people to gain more insights about your journey as well. So thank you for that. And I'm going to wrap up with a couple of comments. And I'll start by saying I want to thank you again for sharing your incredible journey. Your story reminds us of the remarkable potential within all of us to take charge of our health and make lasting positive changes. Your transformation, isn't that just about how strong you are and your determination. It's just a reminder that low carb and ketogenic lifestyles can bring new hope, especially for those living with type 2 diabetes and other metabolic conditions. And by the way, most chronic diseases are metabolic. So 70-80% of the things that harm people can be put into remission. So, and for those who are checking us out, if you've felt stuck or disheartened in your own health journey, I hope Ajalah's story has sparked some inspiration. Remember, there are paths forward, as I said in my speech. Move forward past the struggle so you can find hope. So I always appreciate people for tuning in because I know that they're tuning in because they're interested in healing. So continue to stay connected. we'll make sure to share in the future when our guest is out in the world doing great things. And I'll continue to share insight stories and other tools to help us all achieve our metabolic health. So with that, guys, I thank you for coming to this episode of the Protecting Your Nest podcast. And until the next episode, continue to be safe, be well, and continue to protect your nest.